So the other day, I walked into a shoe store for the first time in a long time, and I looked up and I saw the Nike Flightposite 2s. These were also known as like the KGs. He wore them in the Olympics, 2000 Olympics. And when I saw them immediately, it kind of, took me back to my past. And the crazy thing, I think was crazier, is just the timing that it happened. So I saw the sneakers in the shoe store. It was like the day after I was promoted to vice president at an ad agency, and immediately it just got me reflecting on, where I've come from and how far I've come. And the reason being, so like I had those shoes, the Flightposite 2s, when they came out in black. I really don't know how I got them because, I didn't have money. My mom didn't have money. She didn't buy expensive shoes, but it just might have been one of those times where, she went ahead and bought me some sneakers because, I had good grades. I stayed out of trouble. Overall was a good kid. But I don't really remember how, I was able to get the sneakers or much about them. But the one thing I do remember is that having like a large hole in those sneakers eventually. And what's even crazier is how the hole came about. So, a lot of people don't know this, not even my closest friends, and really it's my mom, sister, immediate family. But I got the hole in the sneaker from walking home from school. So on days where I would stay after school, this was like my sophomore year of high school, days I stayed after, didn't catch the bus home, I would walk. Home. So, eventually they wore out. And those sneakers, the Flightposite 2s, they have very, very thin soles as well. So, and I love the sneakers. I would use them, wear them everywhere. I loved them. And then definitely walking home. So even crazier, the fact that it was a hole in the sneaker was just the timing. So it was just like one thing to the other. So I saw the shooters that week, and then remember the hole, but then also remember how I got the hole from walking home. But the reality is, I didn't really have a home at that time. When I was walking from school back to where I was staying, was actually walking back to a shelter. So at the time, me and my mom was staying in a room in the shelter. This room inside of this church in Laurel, Maryland, and it wasn't the greatest time. The main thing I remember about the room, I just remember the smell of the mice behind the refrigerator and that stench. I just remember that and hating that, and even when trying to take out the mouse traps and remove them, still smelling that smell. And that was a difficult part, and really that was difficulties that have been happening over the last year, and really, really had a humbling upbringing to begin with. So I'm from humble beginnings, but that year, even leading up to that, was difficult. Now, going back to those shoes and having those shoes at that time, sophomore year, living in shelter, it was tough as a sophomore because I had to try to skate around questions from my friends, about, oh, where do you live, And the thing is, the school bus, when it did drop off, it dropped off like right in front of the church. So I would have to wait for, everybody on the bus to just disperse and go their ways towards their house before I can go walk to the room. And then the other thing, there was a girl in my class that I know for a fact went to that church. And so, like, I didn't really hang out with her like that outside of class, but, for whatever reason, I heard she goes to that church. And so on Sundays, when me and my mom would go to church, we went to church in D.C. And so when we would be leaving to go to church out of the shelter to go to our church in D.C., the church where we were staying at, they would already be in the midst of their service. And so when we walked out, there's a big glass window, pretty much the side of the church we walked out is all glass, and the blinds would always be open. So it's like, if anybody's looking through, they can see. So, walking to the car every Sunday to go to church, I would always be, embarrassed and hoping that that girl didn't see me, not knowing what she would think of me and if she would, say stuff to other people. So that was very difficult, not being able to really tell people, just have to, allude to, I live over there or that way, when they asking about where I live. And like I said, that was, we got to there after a year of moving around. So like starting from my freshman year, we had to leave the apartment we were staying at. I was staying with my mom and sister, so they were getting eviction notices, and, eventually we moved. It was a tough time. And at the same time, my sister was getting married. And so, we ended up having to leave there, my mom, my sister, and then her husband too. And so it was my freshman year, and then so we left the apartment. We had to get out of there. Then we went and was staying in Northern Virginia in a hotel for a week or so. Instead, meanwhile, my mom's driving me every day from Northern Virginia all the way to Laurel, Maryland, to drop me off to school, just for her to go over to Montgomery County to work. And then I would stay after school and pretty much wait after school, like my freshman year, until she got off. So I would stay to school. School probably got out, I want to say maybe like 2:30, between 2 and 3, probably like between 2 and 3 we got out of school. So I would have to stay till well after 6 for my mom to come pick me up. She'd come pick me up. She'd come all the way from Montgomery County to Laurel, from Silver Spring to Laurel, to pick me up every day. Then, pick me up late, and then we drive over to Northern Virginia. Then after that, after a week there, then we stayed with some folks from our church, close to, Temple Hills, close to Suitland, close to Upper Marlboro. We stayed there for, I think, maybe a month or two. Then eventually, we all, we ended up landing in a place in Temple Hills. So we lived all the way in Temple Hills, on the edge of DC. Literally, we were right across the street from Alabama Avenue in Southeast DC. Same time, living all the way across the county, basically close to DC, but driving, still my mom every day, driving me to school in Laurel every day because I was part of the honors program. So she would drive me every day to school, and then pick me up and take me after. So it was a little better in the fact that at least we had a place to stay for then. But then also remember, so one of my teachers, a Spanish teacher, found out, I don't know what she was asking in class or something, I forgot. She was just asking, and then I said, it was Temple Hills. And so there's a defined area within PG County for you to be able to attend Laurel, even within the university high school program, honors program. And so obviously the other side of the county where I was, basically close to DC, Southern PG, wasn't part of that. So she called the office in front of the entire class, which I don't know why, but you know, some of these teachers are out of control, unfortunately. You know, basically calling the office saying like, you know, I'm not supposed to be going there. But luckily, eventually, like, I didn't end up getting kicked out. So I was still there. But while I was there, you know, freshman year, eventually my sister got an assignment to go overseas with work. So it was a good opportunity for her. So her and my brother-in-law, they went out there. But then for me and my mom, that meant we had to find somewhere to go. And so that's how we ended up in the shelter. And so that's kind of what I reflected back on when I saw those shoes, and it shows me, you know, just how far I came. And so while being in the shelter and my sister was overseas, you know, after a bit, she, you know, called us and asked if I wanted to come live overseas for a year in the Netherlands. And for me, knowing the situation that I'm in right now, not really wanting to be in a shelter no more, not, you know, just not in a good situation for me, you know. I ended up saying, yeah, I don't really think I had a choice. It was really just a bad situation. I said yes. And I remember after, you know, tell her I was coming and applying to the school, I just remember thinking, man, going to the Netherlands, to Holland, I don't know what's there, what to expect. Never been out of the country. I don't know if there's black people there or what. But I did it. I mean, me just looking at my situation, I don't really think I had a choice, to be honest. And so, I mean, another good thing is that, you know, my sister told me it was supposed to be a pretty good school. It was an American school, private school over there. A lot of smart people. So some of the kids over there, you know, were busting out perfect scores on the SAT, close to perfect. And so I went over there, and it was good. I went over there. So, like, in terms of sports, we got to travel to other countries, other American schools in different countries in Europe playing sports. So I did that. But then also, you know, academically, I held my own as usual, you know, as I'm used to doing. And for me, you know, despite everything I've been through, it confirmed to me that, you know, you know, others aren't better than me. Even if they have more than me, you know, I can never understand how others had more than me, even though I felt like they weren't necessarily better than me. But going there and holding my own, just like I did here with all these rich kids, it definitely was good. It was a good experience, motivated me. It's yet another indicator that I can go anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And so I went there, did well. Also noticed just the difference in resources that families with money receive. And so at this private school, and the guidance counselor was pretty much almost doing the applications for the seniors and all the other folks, and prepping them. So once I saw that and was able to see that, I came back. I already knew what I had to do. I already knew what it was, and really, in terms of applying for college, what I really needed to do was just differentiate myself and show that how I'm different. And luckily, like, I had always been involved in school activities, so that wasn't an issue. I already had that on my resume. I was always involved in school activities in addition to sports, whether student government association, any and everything. I was always involved in, and I figured that would be good in terms of applying to school. So luckily, I already had that. But the piece I took away was, like, obviously I got to differentiate myself, and so that's what I did when I applied to schools. And it was, you know, really because I went there to that situation. I'm the same person, same intellect, same knowledge base. The difference is it's different resources, and It was people that, was able to put you on the game. And it wasn't like, the public school I had in back in PG in Maryland, most public schools that most people have, and people also in inner cities where you have like, probably one guidance counselor to 300. They can't really do anything for you. They barely know you. But I will say at Laurel, my guidance counselor didn't know me. I remember Miss Finley, even before I left, always looked out for me. And then when I came back, she definitely tried to make sure I was good too. So when I came back, I had the game plan. I took the game plan into my essay. And I remember, and I did something I wouldn't normally do. Like, instead of writing a boring essay, I started just, really painting the story of Holland, how it's different, and how my experience is different. And I remember showing my essay to my sister, and she wasn't really feeling it. But I still went with it because I knew, I knew the game plan. I got the game plan. And that's, most of us don't get the game plan. I got the game plan. And I ended up getting into every school I applied to. There was only so many schools I applied to because I was looking for like sports management, sports marketing, that type of thing. But I got into every school I applied to and ended up going to NYU. But went through school and, coming out of school, it was a struggle, man. It was a struggle. Just from, someone from my background, my family isn't really like, business people that have, excelled to leading organizations. And, my mom's definitely not really a business person. But she worked hard just to make sure, like, I had everything. Not everything. She worked hard to get, anything, as much as she could, And, she definitely did everything she could for me and, really made, as most parents, most mothers do, made me the focal point of her life. And so, but going into corporate America, didn't know what to expect. Didn't really identify with most people. Didn't want to laugh at their corny jokes. Didn't want to hang out with you. Didn't want to, get super drunk with people. That's not me. And anyone who knows me, I've always been true to myself. And so it was a struggle. And especially when you're early on, entry level, or, early on, first few years, you get a lot of bad managers, And the managers that are only looking for people like themselves or behave like themselves or like what they like, there's bad managers. They don't understand that people are different, or understand how to evaluate talent, or understand what is important. And so it was a struggle. And, for me, I would just try, work hard, do what I got to do, and, think that I would be rewarded. Like, I would, in a lot of times take on a lot more than others, and just think that, okay, and work hard, that's all I got to do, and I'll be rewarded, come review time at the end of the year. And it never happened. It never ever happened. And so for me to progress, I ended up having to always, early on, had to go to different organizations to progress. And it would just be those new organizations who were looking for talent that would, seem to value what I bring to the table. Until it was time for promotions. And, the companies I've been to, I don't think it wasn't until I left them that they probably really valued and understood that, what I was doing is not necessarily the norm, and that they took it for granted. And, I was watching a podcast recently with Tony Gonzalez and Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders kind of hit on this because Tony Gonzalez was like, man, you played for 5 teams. There's no way you, as good as you were, should have been playing for 5 teams. And the one thing Deion Sanders said, there's a lot of times organizations, they'll take what you do for granted and think that anybody can do it. He said it sometimes you make it look so easy that they forget how difficult some things can be done, how difficult some things are, and they take you for granted. And that's definitely happened to me over the years. But it wasn't really until I got to be a manager that I started to figure things out. I started to see that all the people that were involved in evaluating talent, and noticed that there were a lot of people that have opinions on the talent that don't have any direct knowledge or any extensive knowledge on what those team members bring to the table. And so that was eye-opening for me. And I took that and learned it and applied that to my strategy moving forward. And then also being a manager, I just saw how aggressively a lot of people were in terms of asking for promotions and growth, even when they weren't really key players, even when they weren't really rock stars, they weren't really that great. But I did learn from that, and so as a manager, I would take things here and there from my teams, learn things, little things here and there, even from weak people, and just start to form a strategy. And and after I became a manager, so at AOL or Verizon Media, that was my first management position, and that was great, because it was a great group of people, and that was a small knit, tightly knit team that was put together to launch AOL's DSP, a lot of the underpinnings, which are now Verizon's DSP, but it was a small team that was put together very strategically. And so once I started to manage those folks after a couple years, that was great. 'Cause one, I had a strong team, so that was good. We had a very strong team, and it sort of gave me that first taste. And I definitely took it. I took it very seriously, and I also, one good thing about me is that I have empathy and also street smart, have pretty good judgment of situations and character and all that stuff. So that helped me to navigate that, leading a team of peers who are pretty strong. A team, where, pretty much I was their peer previously, and now I was leading. But for me, it was a strong team, had a lot of respect for them. But from there, it's like I learned a lot, and I never really looked back. And to fast forward to today, where I've managed lots of large teams, and I've built teams from the ground up, at several places successfully, delivering great business results. To now be the VP at a large ad agency in New York, I didn't really think about it until I saw those sneakers and I started to reflect. And it's pretty crazy because I never, before the last few years, I probably never really thought about the VP position. When I was a kid, I was younger. I probably only thought towards the age of 30. Only thought of maybe manager and director and maybe a certain amount of money, which as a kid I thought was a lot just because, my mom didn't make anything. And so when I saw that and, happened to see the sneakers and everything unfold, I saw those sneakers at the same time, and I reflected back to what happened. It's the same time, I was promoted to VP. Also just happened to be Black History Month, which is a coincidence. I felt like, maybe I should share this story and really provide hope, hopefully inspire some folks that have, come from less than ideal situations to let them know that they can do it. And on top of that, like now it's like I feel like I definitely have the blueprint in terms of trying to navigate corporate America while still remaining true to yourself, because that's something I believe in. I believe in authenticity. I never try to be something I'm not, and I've definitely figured out how to do that. And so part of that is what I'm going to do is try to give back, whether it's through content. There's a lot of people, at the last couple organizations I've been to that I've spoken to. So, I'll just see random people, in the hallway that they aren't on my team, but I can sense that something's up. Check in with them, see if I can offer some guidance, some words of wisdom to help them. So I'll continue to do that. But I am also going to create a more formalized plan as well. So like people can have a blueprint or a framework to start with, and then, put their own thing on it to move forward with. It's something I wish I had starting off. I would be a lot further along than I am right now. Because there's a lot of people that just don't know. They just don't have that blueprint. The same way as a junior when I went overseas to that private school with the rich kids, where the guidance counselor is given the blueprint. That's what I want to try to see if I can help give that blueprint to others, because that's all that's missing. We have the talent, we have the intellect, we have the critical thinking skills, we have the creativity, we have everything it takes. We just need that blueprint, then to formalize a plan and create a strategy and go ahead and really the sky's the limit. But the key is to never lose who you are, never lose your identity, because people see through that. Others see through that too. And it's not gonna help. Like you gotta maintain your true self. And I remember like the first few years, corporate America, I didn't really talk to people. I didn't open up with nothing. I didn't tell them anything that was going on. I felt awkward because I didn't relate to anybody. But now it's like sort of like, well, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, and it's really a strength. And once you go back to remembering who you are and what you stand for, it's a strength, and people will respect that for you. It's too many copycats everywhere, too many copycats, broken records in corporate America. Nobody thinks for themselves, which is for me is very frustrating. But nobody thinks with themselves. We got a lot of yes men, yes women. And so if you go back to who you are and maintaining who you are and what you stand for, people will respect that. And the big thing for me is I'm all about trust, integrity. I'm a man of my word, and I expect that from others, whether it's vendors, clients, or whoever. And so there's a lot of people I work with and most organizations that don't do it, especially if we want to talk about advertising. It's rampant. Not even one company, the entire industry. And clients don't respect agencies like they used to because it's a bunch of yes men and yes women who aren't thinking critically, aren't bringing anything to the table. That's not who I am. I maintain who I am. I maintain my integrity. If I don't think something is right, I say it. Also, I man up. I made a mistake. Take responsibility for it. It's not a lot of that. So if you go back to who you are and what you stand for, then you can only have success. And this is really just a start for me. This is just the beginning. I think I got a lot more. And so vice president, that's vice president at an ad agency. That's just the beginning for me. But I will say that it just reminds me, And so, like Jay-Z said, that song says, Alicia Keys, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. The key in taking it back to the sneakers like Nike is just to do it. And just like LeBron says, you just do it because we want to make it possible for others. And we all do it. Then hopefully we get to a point where there are no more humble beginners.
Polarizing to some, underrated again. Show business and never love you the way you love it. We come and we go, they quick to forget. So every bougie event I attend, I tell them this. Sue me, I'm rooting for everybody that's black. And it's like that. and it's like that. Sue me, I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah, and it's like that. Look, sue me, I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Spent about 2 racks on handmade do-rag. Sue me, I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Hey Trey, let this jump relax. Hold up. Now, some of y'all might never heard this song before. Some of y'all might have heard it. We try and have a moment. I want y'all energy. You know what I'm saying? If you heard it, rock with me. If you haven't, just get into it. The song's so important to the culture. Listen to Trey if you don't know the words.